near enough the whole of humanity can be connected in almost real time. So what do we do with that?
This is Velocitize Talks, and I'm Eric Jones. I'm here with David Lockie, who's the CEO and founder of Pragmatic. David, it's good to have you.
Hi, Eric. Great to be here.
Tell us a little bit about Pragmatic and sort of the market opportunity that you saw that you wanted to address with its creation.
Sure, thanks. So we're a WordPress specialist agency based in Brighton. We're 50 people and we work weirdly for a WordPress agency all in the same office together, which I think makes us the biggest centralized WordPress agency in Europe. And we've been going 8 years now. Kind of the business was born out of me freelancing. Kind of found WordPress as the best way to build websites, and once I'd kind of caught the WordPress wave, that seemed to be what everyone wanted, and the business has grown with that market demand. So kind of fell into WordPress and was lucky to catch the right wave at the right time, and obviously now just trying to make the best business we can.
What do you think has contributed to WordPress's incredible success now making up more than 35% of the web?
When I first started looking for a CMS, because I realized just bulk editing text files with kind of handcrafted HTML was inefficient, I tried installing Joomla, Drupal and WordPress. And this is 10 years ago, something like that. WordPress was the only thing I could get running on my local machine, and so that's what I ended up going with. And I think that's a microcosm of WordPress's story, which is that it's super accessible. You can download it. Certainly back then, when a lot of the code base was just HTML and CSS and PHP, you could figure out how to make changes. So it was a very low barrier to entry, and I think a lot of people found the project and started getting involved because they could. Whereas a lot of other code bases were more complex, or you needed to pay money to download the software, or you needed an expensive development environment. Anyone with a text editor can download and start hacking away with WordPress.
So speaking of enhancing WordPress, how do you think the most recent update, I guess not so recent anymore, but how you think Gutenberg has helped WordPress?
The Gutenberg project looked at page building from a very kind of fundamental analysis point of view, looked at what all the other great page building experiences look like and synthesized this vision for a block-based editor. So you're still building a big piece of content, but you're doing it with blocks of content. So you kind of think of it as Lego blocks that build the whole page. So you can have an editing experience that is specific to an image gallery or a paragraph of text rather than the same tools to deal with all of them. So it makes it a much more elegant and modern editing experience. It looks and feels a lot more like it's going to look and feel on the front end. But more importantly, I think it sets a really clear vision for what the future of content management is, which is this granular, very rich content that can be pushed and pulled around, not only within the page for which it was created, but also extracted by bots for use in conversations or adapted for use with social media or different endpoints.
Tell us a little bit about how you see WordPress playing in the headless kind of environment.
It's interesting in the WordPress context and outside of it. So it is a standalone web app. It can be used to sit on top of any APIs. So that's kind of interesting from almost like a headless editing experience, in that you could be using Gutenberg with Drupal today, or you could be in the future potentially using Gutenberg and your own custom CMS. Obviously then once the content is in wherever it sort of stays at rest, whether that's a flat text file or a database, exposing that through APIs that's what kind of the Jamstack paradigm looks like. So JavaScript, APIs, and markup, all sitting on top of this content storage platform. WordPress has like pros and cons for doing that. So a lot of the advantage of WordPress is like the flexibility and the ease of manipulating kind of the end-to-end website products. So a lot of plugins are designed to have an impact on the front end and the back end. And when they're accessed, when the content's accessed directly via APIs, it doesn't come out exactly as it would if it was all WordPress powered. But a lot of companies are doing a lot of really cool and interesting stuff with Headless WordPress, and it's definitely capable of doing it. It's just not as simple as installing a theme and hey presto, it's done.
You've been doing this for 10 years now, and over that time I would imagine you've seen quite a big change in terms of like the RFPs that you're getting from customers. Oftentimes those RFPs can give us a really, really good indication of like either what's super hot or what's on clients' minds. Today, when you look at RFPs, what's the big thing that most clients are looking for?
Looking for business value. And I think that's probably reflective of the journey since Pragmatic started to where we are today, is the sort of centrality of digital to business strategy. So I think previously it would have kind of sat to the side and it would have been like a marketing manager or a marketing team, and they were trying to do some stuff, but they didn't have a seat at the top table. Now, a lot of the time, this stuff is being driven by organizations that have designed themselves to be digitally capable. So they're going through a digital transformation process, or they're at the other side of that. And the RFP describes how they're going to achieve some sort of business capability, drive some kind of business value, usually as part of an overall digital strategy, rather than this is a project, this is a tactical thing that we're trying to do. So they speak to a more kind of consultative need from businesses to engage with specialist agencies who can help them get an important project right first time, rather than having to learn all the lessons that we've learned over 10 years.
How do you think AI is going to begin to play out in a digital experience context?
When we look at AI applications for WordPress, currently, they're all about augmenting the tools that people use to do their jobs day to day. So we think about a digitally capable organization as really having sort of two poles: intelligence at one end and experience at the other end. So great customer experience driving great business intelligence, and a kind of virtuous circle of that. So when we think about AI, really it goes around that whole circle. So we can start with the content creation process. So there are AI tools that will help you analyze the content space and suggest where there are gaps. Then when it comes to actually writing the content, obviously you've got like low-level stuff like spelling and grammar, but there are also tools now where you can upload an image to your WordPress content management system and easily connect with AWS, Google, Azure AI services and receive an automatically generated meta description, some meta tags for that image. So it sounds like quite a small win, but actually what it means in terms of accessibility can be quite impactful, because it means that you've always got a base level sort of fulfillment of good accessibility practice, which is something that we see a lot of websites not doing. Then when it comes to the experiences themselves, we're starting to see more AI-powered personalization, so segmentation and personalization. And your Gen Z research showed how important that is to show a visitor that you recognize them if they've been there before, even if it's only a sort of a glancing nod to the fact that you know that they've been there before, how important that is in terms of keeping people on the site.
You talked about personalization, and there are those in the closed proprietary, sort of systems that say, oh, WordPress isn't particularly good at personalization. How would you respond to that characterization?
So WordPress, it thrives where it's part of a best of breed architecture of complementary services and components. So when somebody says WordPress isn't good at personalization, sure, core WordPress is not good at personalization, but integrating with services that provide identity APIs, provide, you combine those with the content APIs that WordPress has natively, and suddenly you've got a powerful and flexible toolkit that you can do anything that you want with. So rather than being constrained to what a monolithic platform supports in terms of their product roadmap, really you can go out and do anything you want.
How are you beginning to think about voice in a digital experiences in a sort of website context?
So voice is really interesting, but it's really only one manifestation of bots generally. So at the moment we have like chat bots and we have voice bots. I see what WordPress does, allowing people to create really high quality content in a really cost effective way and get it online with a great experience. That experience just extends to bots. So are we presenting that content in a way that makes it easy for machine intelligence to understand it, interpret it, retrieve it? And I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what we're going to see from bots. The near future for bots is smart mirrors. So there are some kind of neat prototypes of this already. You walk into a store, it looks like a mirror, but actually it's it's a giant iPad screen essentially, and it's able to clothe you, accessorize you based on 3D models of products and allow you to kind of swipe, I like that version of myself, I don't like that version, etc. And you'll be able to then go, yeah, actually I like these products, get them delivered. And that might be at home, it might be in a store, but the idea of a bot in that situation is that you're having a one-to-one conversation with the mirror, but it's not a voice bot, it's not a chat bot, it's like a visual endpoint for that bot.
I'm really curious because I know this is a passion area of yours. How do you see blockchain impacting the future of digital experiences?
I think it's going to blow our minds what happens over the next 5 or 10 years. And in that kind of real-time creation consumption paradigm, you produce some music, you play it here and now, and Beyonce happens to be walking past and live streaming it to her 10 million people who just sit on their VR and watch what Beyonce does all day. Like your original music has now reached those 10 million people. How on earth do you solve for that in terms of usage rights and monetization without things like, usage rights being embedded in metadata, without smart contracts, without cryptocurrencies, without micropayments? I think we stifle innovation at that level. And all of those technologies I mentioned are here or hereabout. So we're starting to see that, that concept for the new web. Facebook's, VR world announcement this week is, they're all just signs of that coming to pass. A lot of people are saying we're going to start seeing, deep-faked videos that are kind of influencing people's decision-making. And so I think being able to use things like blockchain to start verifying and underpinning some sort of credibility and securing, at least giving us some secure foundations for that future. We're going to see more focus on that. How do we trust online?
Tell us a little bit about a book that you'd recommend to our viewers.
The best book that I've read all year is the 3 Body Problem series. So it's sci-fi books, fiction. It's from a Chinese author, translated into English. So it's a trilogy of books, and I found it really impactful because it made me realize that we're at this stage now where near enough the whole of humanity can be connected in almost real time. So what do we do with that? For the first time, we have to ask ourselves, what's our purpose? What do we want to achieve? Do we want to live in one planet harmony? Do we want to colonize Mars? Where do we find alignment between continents? Or do we, are we always going to have these sort of competitive factions and elements? And I think it's just a really interesting time in human history. And those books kind of helped me think about that.
David, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. Always.
That was David Lockie, the CEO and founder of Pragmatic.